guys, today we are going to look at 7C Part 2. 7C Part 1 was all about solutions of polynomials using our calculator, right? We were able to just plug it in and find the solution that tells us what x equals. This time, not so much. We have to do the algebra to show it. So, we are going to be given our polynomial and then one zero or one factor, and we're going to find the remaining factors or the remaining zeros using algebra. The first thing is actually a typo in this problem. It should be x cubed minus 6x squared, and this should be plus just 3, not 13. So just plus 3x, 10. So, I want to find my remaining zeros. I know x equals 5 is a 0. So basically all I'm doing is taking that 0 away from this polynomial so I can see what remains. So in order to take it away, I'm going to divide it. So all I'm going to do is set up my synthetic division. I have 1, negative 6, 3, and 10. Bringing down the 1, 5 times 1 is 5. I get negative 1. 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. I get negative 2. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. And I get 0. You want to make sure you get 0 there because it tells us it is a 0. So I should get no remainder, right? Thinking back to what we did in target B. So that's your first step, synthetic division. Right, let's step over here. Is step 1. Our next step then is I'm going to write my quadratic from here. Remember, I'm saying quadratic because we always drop a degree. Okay? So it's going to go down 2. So I'm going to start with 1x squared minus 1x minus 2. Okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to set this quadratic equal to 0. So that's my second step. Right, quadratic equal to 0. My next step is to factor. So when I factor this, what multiplies to negative 2 adds to negative 1. You should see that it's x minus 2, x plus 1. This is why we practice factoring at the beginning of the unit. Equals 0. And my last step is to solve. You solve by setting each of these equal to 0. X minus 2 equals 0, and x plus 1 equals 0. So basically I say split and solve. So add 2, x equals 2, subtract 1, x equals negative 1. And that's it. Alright, so those are finding zeros. Let's look at example 6. Example 6 says if x minus 1 is a factor, right, of x cubed minus 13x plus 12, find remaining factors. Okay? So I'm still going to set up my synthetic division here. So remember, with this one I do flip the sign. Now I have x cubed, I have 0x squared, negative 13, and 12. So, starting by doing my synthetic division, bring down the 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 1. 1 times 1 is 1. Negative 12. 1 times negative 12 is negative 12. And that's 0. Okay? Now again, my second step is writing that quadratic. So I always start with whatever that is and take it down. So x squared x x minus 12. When you're finding factors, you don't set it equal to 0. You're not solving, you're just factoring. So then my next step is to factor this. All right, x squared minus x minus 12. Right, so what multiplies to negative 12 adds to negative 1. That'd be x minus 4, a negative 4, and x plus 3. Right, so negative 4 and positive 3. And since I'm just finding the factors, here they are, I'm done. X minus 4 and x plus 3 are my remaining factors. Okay, so the factor ones are actually easier than the 0 ones. The 0 ones, there's the extra step of solving. Factors, there's not. All right, looking at example 7. Example 7 says if x equals 3 and x equals negative 4, let's just say r zeros of x to the 4th minus 5x cubed minus 15x squared minus 83x minus 60. Find the remaining factors using algebra. All right, first thing with this problem is there is 2 typos in it. So, it should say x to the 4th minus 5x cubed. It should be minus 13x squared, so we change that. 13. And this should be 77. It's really off. I don't know where those numbers came from. Don't worry about it. Alright, so the only difference between doing a problem when I'm given 2 zeros and it's a 4th, right, degree polynomial is I just have to do my synthetic division twice. Right, 1 for each number. So I'm going to start with x equals 3. So my 3 goes on the outside. And then my coefficients go inside. So 1, negative 5, negative 13, 77, negative 6. I'm going to bring down the 1. 3 times 1 is 3. Negative 5 plus 3 is negative 2. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Negative 13 plus negative 6 is negative 19. 3 times negative 19, we get negative 57. Here we then get 20. 3 times 20 is 60. Negative 60 minus 60 is 0. Since it is a factor, we do want that 0. Okay. Now, with this x equals negative 4, I'm not even going to change anything. I'm just going to draw a new box, ignoring that remainder, and put the 4 on the negative 4 on the outside. Again, since these are x equals, I don't change the sign. Bring down the 1. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Negative 2 plus negative 4 is negative 6. Negative 4 times negative 6 is positive 24. So I get 5. Negative 4 times 5 is negative 20. So I get 0. Again, we want that 0. Now, my next step is to use these to write my quadratic over here. The reason it's still a quadratic is because it's a 4. I divided by 3, so it went down to a cube. I divided again, so it went down to a square. So every time you divide, you're dropping a degree. Okay, so I started at 4 and I dropped 2 degrees. So I'm starting at x squared minus 6x plus 5. And since I'm trying to find zeros, I have to set it equal to 0. Then I have to factor. What multiplies to 5 and adds to negative 6? That'd be negative 5 and negative 1. And then my last step is to split and solve. So x minus 5 equals 0 and x minus 1 equals 0. Add 5 here. X equals 5. Add 1 here. X equals 1. And that's it. So the ones with 2 are not that much harder. All right, let's look at our last example, example 8. So now I'm given factors, and I'm looking for remaining factors. But it's still the same concept. I'm going to start with this first. I have to switch the sign because it's not an equals. draw my box. 1, 4, negative 7, negative 34, negative 24. Bring down the 1. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. I get 3, negative 3, which is negative 10. Negative 1 times negative 10 is positive 10, which is negative 24. Negative 1 times negative 24 is positive 24. Negative 24 plus 24 is 0. Once I do that synthetic division, I'm going to just set up my next synthetic division, so I don't have to change anything, with negative 2. So 1, negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. 1, negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. You get negative 12 here. Negative 2 times negative 12 is positive 24. Negative 24 plus 24 is 0, which is good. Then I'm using this. Again, I started with a fourth, and I divided twice, so I dropped 2 degrees. So I'm starting with x squared plus x minus 12, right? X squared plus 1x minus 12. Now here, I'm finding factors, so I don't have to set it equal to 0. I only set it equal to 0 if I'm finding 0. Okay? So I'm just factoring. What multiplies to negative 12 adds to 1, right? That's going to be x plus 4, x minus 3. Those are my 2 remaining factors. And that is it for today. I'll see you guys tomorrow.